Chris Krok Show, hour number 3 already, y'all. On News Talk 820 WBAP and 93.3 FM. Got a nice little report from one of my favorite Twitter followers, Tori. Torianne, I believe. She says that she is hearing me very nicely, clear as a bell on 93.3. She says, you sound awesome on FM station 93.3. A to the men. To that, sister. Now, in a second gun news story I wanted to talk about, and that is a sad one. My son was 13 at one point. He is now 20. And when you really reflect on this, it's very, very horrific to think about. And it's why you and I really have to be responsible with our firearms. Have you ever forgotten your firearm out somewhere? I did the other day. I was going to work out and I left it on my bed. And I told my wife, hey, I left it on there. You know, it's not a big deal because it's not going to hurt anybody. And my kids are young adults and they've handled firearms. But still, I like to keep it locked up in my safe, which my son has access to. My wife has access to. I mess with my wife about every once in a while. I make sure she knows the code to punch it in. You know what I mean? To pop it open. Because God forbid something should happen. Boom. Pop and drop. But there's always a horror if you have firearms in your house that something could happen. I am amazed at some of the people that I love and respect and know in my family or in my friendship circle, and they don't have the firearms locked up, and it's because they don't have little ones at the house. But you have to remember something too, guys. If you have grandkids, or if you have friends, like we have little ones that are our friends from church come over all the time, and the little ones come over and, my gosh. So lock it up. And the other thing is, you got, I'll share the story first. 13-year-old Mineral Wells boy dies after accidentally shooting himself. Chief of Police in Mineral Wells, Tom Dennison, says it's important to teach your children about gun safety. 13-year-old boy has died, reports WFA TV Channel 8, after shooting himself in the head with a firearm while his parents were not at home. He was taken to the hospital, later died from his injuries Jan 1. They're still trying to figure out how he got his hands on the gun and who owns it. We're still trying to confirm how this child came to be in possession of his firearm. It's a tragic incident. The child's family did not own firearms. What? Okay. But here's the thing. It's important to teach your kid about gun safety for the families that do have firearms. It's your responsibility as a gun owner to keep them locked up and out of the reach of a child. It's also law. And I recommend, I have no problem. I'm on board with fully prosecuting anybody who doesn't lock them up and kids get their hands on them. Here's the thing that I want to tell you. If you own firearms, or if you're comfortable with your kid knowing about them and handling them, you need to do one thing that my dad, who was a police officer in Chicago, I'm from a multi-generational law enforcement family with policing in that area, in that city and suburbs. But you need to demystify guns. That's the word. That's the word I came up with, and it really, really seems to resonate with folks. Demystify it. What does that mean? Even if you don't have any firearms, you need to teach your kids what to do when there is one in the household. And honestly, if you're comfortable with it, take your kid to a range and teach them how to handle a gun and how to fire it. And if you don't know, go to a range, let them train you, pay the money to go for an hour, and let your kid handle it, and you handle it, and then fire them. So that your kid has done it. Demystify it. Because they will find that gun. Take it from me as a kid. I found my dad's gun. And I took it out in the field and shot it. And the cops were called. And I got in big trouble. My friend and I did. Because when you find a gun and you're a kid, you want to shoot the thing. That's what we did. Had I shot him before with my dad, I wouldn't have, been searching for him everywhere, So it's just a case of Demystify it. Take your kid to a range, let them train them and let them learn how to fire and let them shoot and let them get excited about it, and then tell them why, what they need to do at the house or at somebody else's house if they come across one. We told them, if you're at your friend's house, get out of the house immediately and go to the neighbors, because here's the thing, it might not be you touching it or handling it, but it could be them. And they look at you and they turn, and they're an idiot because they don't have firearms training or because they're a little kid, and they kill you, even though they didn't mean to hurt anybody. Well, look at this. So, dude, talk to your kids about this. Train them. Demystify it over everything. If you have one in your house, they're going to find it. That's what I did. That's what we do. That's what boys do. We find those weapons and we play with them. Demystify them and freaking lock them up. When I was at my hometown there for Christmas time, there was somebody who was elderly who has grandkids, and I was at their house, and I'm like, "Do you lock it up?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Dude, if your grandkids are over all the time, get a gun safe, lock it up, dude." Yeah, you don't need one when there's nobody over, but when there's little kids over all the time, dude. Ay. All right. So, by the way, if you want to add to that, what are your recommendations to parents on how to deal with the firearms in the home when they have kids? Or when they go over to someone's house, what do you recommend? What are your thoughts and recommendations to parents on how to deal with firearms in the home when they have kids? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And by the way, my wife is very funny. I sent her that text when I was working out and I wanted to bring my gun with me, and I left it on my bed. I always, when I take it out, the times when you misfire are when you are handling your gun, like taking it in and taking it out. That's the number one time. So what do? I put my safety on before I even take it out of my unholster it, and I put my safety on. So before I pull it out of my holster, I have it on safety, and I leave it in my safe on safety, just because I want that one extra step, and I'm not worried about it if we need it on a moment's notice at the house. You pop it open the safe and you put the safety down and you blow them away. Not a big deal. So 800-288-WBAP is our number. Your recommendations on parents, how to deal with kids with the firearms in the home. Speaking of, I got one more thing I want to get into. A great piece that I read today about why aren't we... Remember there was a school shooting in Iowa that we heard about yesterday? And why didn't Joe Biden have a little 2-minute speech about gun violence? Gun violence! Weapons of war! Did you hear any Democrats say anything? How come? And there's several other stories in the past year that you'll remember. I'll walk down memory lane with you, and they were silent on. Why? We'll get to that coming up next. Chris Krok Show, News Talk 820 WBAP and 93.3 FM. Chris Krok Show, News Talk 820 WBAP and FM 93.3. But my buddy Eric Erickson wrote his column today about the deafening silence of the left. Why didn't we hear any talks about gun violence and weapons of war? And why didn't we hear about school shootings and we need to regulate guns and everything? You know why? About the one in Iowa that just happened, the school shooting? Because I did not know this until my buddy wrote this in his blog today. The young man who shot and killed one and injured four others and then committed suicide, shot and killed himself at the school in Iowa, is in the Alphabet Gang. So apparently he is LGBTQI plus. So, oh my gosh, no, we don't talk about those shootings. No, we were quiet. So my buddy writes today about the media didn't cover it extensively, as they've done numerous school shootings. They covered it, certainly. No overnight roundtables on gun violence and the need for gun control. And gun owners, of course, are a threat to democracy, he writes. Democrat politicians have not run out, demanded action. No response from the president that I'm aware of, if any. If he has, it's been muted. So why? Well, because it's not a white, straight male. And that's the case, he says. He says, just as the press censoriously lectures us on not to dead name members of the trans community when they covered the school shooting in Nashville with the transgender terrorist Audrey Hale, they also downplayed her being a transgender terrorist. And by the way, he says they're doing the same thing right now. They're not saying anything about it because this guy is the same thing. He's got one of the LGBTQIA++ members of that brigade. And then he says he's reminded of 3 other shootings that are mysteriously and strangely went into the ether, and the left, Joe Biden and all of his anti-gun sycophants, they went quiet. Do you remember, he says, the mass shooting at a birthday party in Alabama? Multiple people dead. The shooters were black. The victims were black. So what did the Democrats do? Nothing. What did Joe Biden do? Nothing. They didn't fit their narrative, and so they're silent. A girl shot and killed by an elderly man in New York as the girl and her friends turned around in the man's driveway, but they were all white. Nothing, my buddy Eric Erickson writes today. The young man in Missouri, shot through the front door by an elderly man. The boy thankfully survived. Boy was black, man was white. Media gave it maximum coverage. Even Joe Biden got involved. See, it's all about the color of the folks. It's all about if the victim is black or LGBTQIA, etc. And if they're not, they don't give a frog's fat. You know what about this story? You'll never hear it. If it doesn't fit their narrative, they don't talk about it. And so I ask you, my question is, Dwayne would say, my question, do you think Joe Biden and the Democrats show they really don't care about the lives of and the guns, and that it's instead all about using tragedy for political gain when they ignore the mass shootings that don't fit their political narrative? Don't you think that Biden and the Democrats show they really don't care about lives and guns when it doesn't fit their narrative by staying silent? That's the truth. They don't care. They only use death and tragedy for political power and gain. And when it doesn't fit their narrative, they say nothing. Because it shows they really don't care. It's not about guns. It's not about lives. It's not about tragedy. It's about winning power and using people's tragedy to gain power and staying silent on certain tragedies when it doesn't fit your narrative, when it doesn't help you to gain power. You stay quiet. Our number is 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Do you think Joe and the Democrats show they really don't care about these lives and guns, and then instead it's all about power when they remain silent on shootings like that mass shooting in Alabama where everybody was black and therefore they said nothing, where the guy who shot and killed people at the school shooting in Iowa yesterday or the day before was LGBTQIA+++, they say nothing. And the stories the press chooses, my friend says in his column today, to cover the story the press chooses to cover are chosen all through the intersectional lens. So the school shooter and I were from a MAGA family. You'd be waking up today to copious media coverage, but you aren't because the shooter wasn't. See that? Wow, it never happened. He was from the Alphabet Gang, my buddy writes, meaning LGBTQIA++++. So move along, he says. Narrative doesn't work. You can't have a news day mostly free of lectures on the evils of the Second Amendment. There you go. Good. There you go. Because it's not the right narrative. Everything's fine. No lectures, no gun violence, no round tables on fake news, CNN or MSNBC, etc. Okay. Coming up next, we have Brittany Mahomes, the wife of Kansas City Chiefs star quarterback Patrick Mahomes, alleged to be mistreating hotel staff and to be a horrible tipper. A former server at that hotel, like a luxury hotel in Los Angeles, did a whole post on social media saying that she's a horrible tipper and she mistreats the staff. Do you think that's okay? Is that fair game? And whether it be a celebrity or anybody else, is it fair game to out somebody who treats staff like crap and is a bad tipper? I'll tell you what I think about that coming up next. Plus, after that, a man punches a flight attendant, kicks a cop on a flight diverted from Dallas. We'll talk about the worst things you've seen on planes and how you've handled people that kick your seat, ask you to move for their kids, etc. We'll get into that coming up next on the Chris Krok program. And then we're going to have a little fun, too. We got some great little stories to have some fun. All that is coming up next on the Chris Krok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP. All right, Patrick Mahomes' wife, Brittany Mahomes, is being picked on here, I guess is a nice way of putting it. And she apparently is a horrible tipper and mistreats people. That's according to a former server at a luxury LA hotel. No gratuity on a $130 bill. Okay, that is inexcusable. That is absolutely... If you have millions of dollars in your bank account, that's insanely inexcusable. But let me tell you something. My wife and she taught me well. It's more her. But I do it because of her. So we went through this years ago, and I changed my ways. And I'm glad she taught me what to do. And she was one. She was a server for years. So, you do 20%. And I mean, it depends too. Is it drinks? You know what I mean? It just depends. But still, you tip, and you tip well. And well for regular folks as well. And then for folks that are well off, you really need to, if I was a person that was well off, I'd be very careful. Especially if I'm the wife of a celebrity or anything like that. You don't have to, you can be somebody who's well off. Dude, you don't mistreat people, you treat them well. Now, if the service sucks, that's different. Then I don't care what you tip. It could be $0, -0, right? 1 cent, I don't care. But if it's standard service, then give them at least a 15. If it's good, then 20 or whatever. But this is bad, and I got no problem with this. And I'll give you some more details on this. But are you okay with folks outing people when they mistreat servers, mistreating the staff? They allege she mistreated them too. Are you okay with people outing folks when they mistreat staff and or are bad tippers? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. She's a former server. Even if she was a current one, I wouldn't care if she outed people. Now, look, if her employer wants to fire her, if she was still there, that'd be fine with me, too. I don't have a problem with the employer saying you can't do that. That's fine. But she doesn't work there anymore, and I don't have a problem with her doing it. Because here's the thing. You learn this when you learn about defamation and... defamation and libel stuff and everything. When you work in my industry, particularly, you got to be very careful what you say about people. Public figures, all bets are off. But private people. But here's the thing: the best defense in any case like this is truth. And so, if you say what is true, then you're fine. If you say what is not true, you could be in big trouble. So, if these people are honest about it, that's fine with me. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Are you okay with servers and or, hospitality folks outing people that mistreat them or give them bad tips? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. You got to be careful, too, because what if somebody outs you and they're wrong because you weren't mistreating them and they're just jerkity jerks, to say it a nice way. So that is something else too to consider. So but let's see what she says here. She says this woman says that she's a former employee of One Hotel West Hollywood. This is from the Daily Mail today. She recalls the former soccer star. I guess Brittany Mahomes was a soccer star. Did you know that? I had no idea. Staying at the hotel she worked at, specifically calling her for neglecting to leave a tip on a $130 bill at the hotel. That's unforgivable. She also says she didn't tip the other staff members during the entire week of her week-long stay. Okay, that's wrong, dude. Look, we're a middle-class family, and when we just stayed at the hotel again for a week when we were in Chicago, the same one we always go to, and we tipped the folks that, what do you call it, we tipped room service, but we didn't do any room service. But bellhop, we always tip. If we have maid service, we tip. If somebody brings something to our room, like extra blankets, extra towels, we tend to tip on that usually as well. And so I can't imagine this. She says, I was a server, barista, bartender. I did every position at the hotel. I believe Brittany Mahomes was in town to shop for a wedding dress. She was there with a whole posse. Patrick was not there. Patrick Mahomes, the star quarterback. I believe their tab was well over 100, maybe 130. Zero tip. That's insane, dude. They were there for almost a week, I think, and did not tip a single one of our staff. Not only did she not tip, she was genuinely unpleasant. Okay. See, that's bad. She says, as a public figure, you should always go about thinking, okay, the people I interact with are clocking these interactions. They're going to remember this. Agreed. I only judge people based off their character. I think one of the easiest ways to judge somebody's character is how they treat someone in position lesser than them. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. That is exactly right when no one's looking. Let's just say character assessed, she said. So, and then somebody else, a whole bunch of people commented. Look at this. I live in KC. For the first 2 years of Patrick and Brittany living here, she would drive through the plaza and outdoor mall and would complain all the time about us Kansas Missourians for acknowledging her in public. Another person says, I was a server in Sonoma County, California, wine country, and I met a lot of celebrities. It's wild how many don't tip. That's just freaking, that angers me. People don't owe you a tip. One said, I don't understand what people don't get about that. Listen, if you do a good job, they do owe you a tip as far as I'm concerned. Wow. Now, as far as mistreating people, I lost my cool with when the hotel I was at in Chicago, I had an incident with somebody there because I was like, what, this is insane. I had a problem, and it was like a long problem that happened with the reservations. It happened again with the reservations. I get there. I saw a bill in the middle of my stay that was wrong. I went downstairs. I talked to them. It was very annoying. The lady there said, we're going to take care of it. Here's what we're going to do. And then when I went to check out, guess what? The problem came all over again. I was freaking livid. So I was definitely a little curt with that lady, to say the least. And I thought I went a little too far. So I went back and talked to her, and I said, I'm sorry. And I said, I want you to know I'm very sorry, da-da-da. And I went on and on, and then we joked around a little bit. Because I don't feel good leaving somebody like that. And so I think you're an idiot if you're a celebrity or married to one and you mistreat people. You're a fool. And I have no problem with people outing you. Chris in Arlington, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP and 93.3 FM. Chris Krok program. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
Good, man. Nice name.
Well, I was going to ask you a question, but...
You have a question?
A question.
A question, yes. Dwayne! Go ahead.
Anyway, no, I just feel like some of these people, it's like the more money they make, the less they feel like they have to give, and it's like they take advantage of these people, And that's the whole point I'm trying to make.
The more we are entrusted with, the more we should give. And by the way, there's another thing that is antithetical to most people that I've learned, and I practice, and I agree with it, is when you need more, you should give more, believe it or not.
Right. No, I just feel like that these people, they take advantage of, the more money they make, they just take advantage.
So you agree with outing folks when they mistreat you at a workplace or or they don't tip you right, or?
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think it's wrong the way these people just treat, can I use the word upper class?
Of course, you can use whatever word you want as long as it's not profanity.
Okay, well, these upper class people they take advantage of people. It's like they just got money and they just
not all.
They can just walk all over people.
Not all, but some do. Chris, I appreciate your call, brother, man.
All right, bro.
Have a good night. Okay, up next, man charged with punching flight attendant. Also allegedly kicking police officer in the groin on a DFW-based flight going to Bozeman, Montana. That was, what's it called? It was redirected to Amarillo instead. Yeah, we'll talk about that coming up next. And what does, I got to make sure I pronounce this right. Your kids might be saying this now. What does, I have to look, how do you spell this? Hold on. Gwat? No, bought, squat, G-Y-A-T. Have you heard of this, producer Garrett? Because you're young. Yeah. Gyat. Okay, there you go. Thank you. It rhymes with squat, so gyat, squat, gyat, bought. What does gyat mean? This is on NBC5 today. Slang. We're going to talk about slang. Why? Because, how old are you, producer Garrett? This is Garrett 2. He's Garrett 1's 27, about to be 27. Garrett 2 is 23. Well, my son is 20, 3 years younger than you. And you just graduated recently from UNT, Screaming Eagles. And he is at one of our major universities in North Texas. And so he's only 3 years behind you. And the language, as far as these different weirdo, stupid, weird terms, the funny memes, I'm down with it. Not all of them, but he shares it with me. I'm not down with all of them. I'm saying I know some of them, and it's freaking hysterical what you guys do. And I have no problem. I'll tell you what that means. And we'll talk some other slang if your kids have taught you some other slang that you can share on the radio as well. Coming up next, 800-288-WBAP, Chris Krok, program News Talk 820 WBAP and 93.3 FM. So this man was charged with punching a flight attendant. Actually, there's nothing funny about that, but hold on. A man charged with punching a flight attendant, also allegedly kicking police officer in the groin, NBC5 reports. Keith Edward Faria, sounds like a swear, faces charges of interfering with a flight crew. Up to 20 years in prison faced if convicted. First federal court appearance in the beautiful part of our state, Amarillo. Saying that sarcastically. Yes, we have. Look, I've been there. I have been to the, what's our little Grand Canyon we have there? I forget it now. We were there. It's been years. We loved it. And then, of course, the Big Texan. We've been there, I think, twice. Had a good time. Enjoyed it. The steak was actually good. Very good. And then you can watch the freak show of somebody stuffing their face, trying to get you know what that is, producer Garrett? That it's a 72-ounce steak, and you got to eat everything on the plate, and you get it for free if you don't eat it in time, or if you don't eat it in one sitting or something like that. Or I think you have an hour. I can't remember. But if you don't eat it in time, you have to pay for it. Okay, and every time somebody gets the record, they, here's what happens. You lose no matter what if you do that. Because if you win, quote unquote, you have destroyed yourself and you're like, whoa, you know what I mean? So you lose and they put it out as a press release and they get some free publicity. If you try it and you don't get it, they get paid. So they make money both ways. Brilliant promotion. And so there was some tiny lady up there eating it while we were, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, what a freak show. It's great you watch the freak show while you're eating. Okay. Anyway, He was a passenger on American Airlines flight just a couple days ago, Wednesday, from DFW International to Bozeman, Montana. And he apparently admitted that he had a few Captain Morgan spiced rums at the bars before the flight. Well, you're an idiot, sir. That's what you are. You're a certified idiot. What happened was they subdued a man, put flex cups on him. He complained about them being too tight. But video taken by another passenger showed the confrontation with the flight attendant. Stop, stop, stop. What the bleep are you doing? Flight attendant yelled at the man hitting him. Wow. He apparently was over somebody with a seat. And here we go. Flight attendant told the FBI another passenger complained he was violently kicking their seat. Dude. Flight attendant said when he asked this man to stop, he swore at him, punched him in the stomach, then stood up and hit him 3 more times. Dude, you're going to jail. I hope you do for a long time. You're an idiot. You're an absolute moron. Enjoy your time in the federal penitentiary, wherever that godforsaken one is, somewhere in the West Texas out there, over by there. Okay, what does... Now, Producer Gary, you have to help me again. It's gyat. What does gyat mean? I love this. NBC5 did this today. And what's gyat and why are teens saying it? It's not a G-rated word. Blah, 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 blah. So it's an acronym for girl, your A word, your butt is thick. And thick is THICC. Now, you got to understand what that means. My son's told me. There's a joke he has about playing, what's the game? I think it's you're trying to creep around the corner when you're playing Call of Duty and your dummy thick ass cheeks are clapping, right? You know that one? My dummy thick ass cheeks, my son will say. All sorts of... You hear funny things, and I love... That's part of being a dad when your kid's 18, 19, 20, saying stupid juvenile things that make you laugh. And he shows you memes, and so does my daughter particularly. He shows us these juvenile, immature... I've seen a lot, and I love it. It's funny. Keep it coming. I know there's other ones, but feel free to share something your son or daughter has taught you about gyat. So, how do you use that in a sentence? I don't know. So wait, it's a heightened way of saying it has always been, GD, I guess is the other one. So wait a minute. It's an acronym from girl, you got a thick, your A word is thick, TICC, or an abbreviation for GD. Well, that's great. Thank you. Here, how are teens using gyat? Am I pronouncing that right? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, they're teaching you how to use it. I want to say how to use it in a sentence while you have a gyat. It doesn't mean you have a big butt. It means you have a big, beautiful butt. Gyat. I don't know, guys. If parents start using gyat, teens will stop. Says one guy. Yes, isn't that true? Come on, baby. Believe that. All right. Exploding toilet, not exploiting. Exploding toilet at Florida Dunkin' Donuts store left customer filthy and injured. We have to read this story. Customer filed a negligence suit against Dunkin' Donuts, blah, 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 seeking $100,000, blah, blah, blah. He was in Orlando, suffered a severe and long-term injury from an exploding toilet in the men's room? What? It left him covered in feces, urine, and debris. Wow. Walked out of the men's room seeking help from workers at the store's manager. They told him they were aware of the problem with the toilet since there were previous incidences. I don't know. They don't explain to us how the toilet blows up. I don't know.